Hello guys, welcome to my video about destroying the stereotypes about Linux. Now, if you've ever dealt with Linux before, I bet you've seen websites like this. So TechRadar, they recommend best Linux distros of 2024, even though it was updated in 2024. And if we go back, we'll see that. Okay, not this one, but some of them are really old, so they don't really put real effort into creating these. So yeah, don't fall for these. Linux is not hard. Those memes you see, the memes when the guy's typing on the keyboard like there's no tomorrow or something like that, those are extremely full. That is not the Linux experience of today. Yeah, you can do that. You can update your system with a command line, and there are distros that let you, they're based on the philosophy of doing that inside a terminal. But there are distros nowadays that don't depend on the terminal. You can use those distros without actually depending on the terminal. So you've got software stores. The best two examples of software stores on Linux are FlatHub and Snaps. They're both secure. They are both, let's say, foolproof, although they can also be kind of confusing sometimes. But when you get used to them, and when you get to used to managing your packages and stuff like that, you're generally going to be a better Linux user. And then there are AppImages. Okay, so AppImages are the EXEs of Windows, but compared to EXEs, they have dependencies, programs. For example, if you're writing a program in Python, and you've got a library in Python, let's say you've got math, so it's going to be a calculator or something. So if you want to do square root, there's a function in the math library in Python which does square root, as SQRT with parentheses. So it's going to depend on that math math library to have that function inside it on the PC to run that program. So a calculator cannot run without that math library, right? So on Linux, AppImages are basically all those dependencies for your system built into a single file that just contains everything, and you just double click it and it launches. For example, I have a program called LM Studio, which I use to experiment with LLMs, so large language models, kind of like ChatGPT, but locally, so they're more secure and private that way. Yeah, and it's in an AppImage. As you can see here, we've got LM Studio 0.6.8. So this is this is the app image I was talking about. You just double click it. It just brings up this. I didn't press do not ask again for privacy reasons, of course. And you just click execute, and it's going to open up a window. You've got LM Studio here, so you can check your you can go and access your LLMs. For example, I've got Hermes E Llama, if I'm not mistaken. This is a Facebook LLM. But aside from that, you can just AppImages are also pretty useful. You're either going to have software that is inside the distro's repository, which is the official stuff. For example, if it's Ubuntu, you'll have stuff that Ubuntu officially supports, and don't be afraid to use something that is not officially supported by Ubuntu, but yeah, some things are supported officially by Ubuntu, and other things are built for Ubuntu or built for Linux in general, but can also be used on Ubuntu. Generally, my recommendation for Linux desktop use is Ubuntu, but you can also use stuff which are based on Ubuntu or based on Ubuntu's parents, so Debian. Those are Pop! OS, which is based on Ubuntu, Mint, which is also based on Ubuntu, and Debian is basically the father of all Ubuntu's, Ubuntu-based distros, because it's also Ubuntu's based on Debian, and Ubuntu is the more vanilla experience. It also has you can get it in flavors, so there's this thing called desktop environment. So for example, my desktop environment right here, as you can see, is KDE Plasma. It's made by the KDE Foundation, and yeah, it's more like a Windows experience, but I also like it more than Windows. So yeah, you can customize it to be more like Windows or more like macOS. Sometimes, yeah, you can. It's really customizable. So if you want to be customizing your distro, you want to have KDE Plasma. But that's not for everyone, because some people don't like customization. And for those people, I recommend GNOME. Yeah, this is not GNOME, but I mean like the Linux one. Here is GNOME, but like GNOME is customizable because the philosophy of Linux is meant to have customization in it. If you like macOS, GNOME works pretty much like macOS. The interface is similar. It's not exactly the same, but it's similar to macOS. So Ubuntu's GNOME is like a little different, like the dock in macOS. It's underneath, right? Ubuntu's dock is like on the side, on the left. So yeah, you're gonna have to move it down, and we'll do that in today's video. And besides GNOME and KDE, which are the two major ones which I would recommend staying on, because those support like multi-monitor stuff better. I'm not going to get into like the weeds of what multi-monitor support is on Linux. You can comment down below if you want a video on that. But if you're like experienced on Linux, you know that there's X11, Xorg, and Wayland. Now, I'm not going to get into the weeds of this, but if you want to have multiple monitors on different refresh rates, you want you want Wayland. But if you don't have that, you'd rather go with X11, especially if you're on NVIDIA, and most of Windows users are actually on NVIDIA, so yeah, you're basically probably on NVIDIA. So yeah. So if you don't want GNOME or KDE, you can go for other desktop environments, of which there are a lot. XFCE. XFCE is like this lightweight desktop environment, and it's got like I can't explain, you just have to see the picture. It is this. If you like it, you like it. And the amazing thing about Linux is that you can, if you don't want XFCE, you can always change it. It's not like you're gonna stay on XFCE because you just downloaded it. No, you can just go and download something else and use it like that. Like for example, Ubuntu ships with GNOME. If you don't want GNOME and you want KDE, and you didn't pick Ubuntu at first, you can always just change the desktop environment, actually keep both, but run one, because in case you don't like it and you rather the other one, you can always change it. You can always jump from one to another. LXQT is another one, which is more like Windows, I'd say. Yeah, so it uses Qt as in name, and it's more like Windows, but it's more like Windows XP. If you want an XP experience, I would recommend LXQT. Again, you can install this on every single distro. And of course there are more of these desktop environments, and it really is about what you like. So for example, this is Cosmic. It's not really released yet, it's like in an alpha stage, which I don't recommend using, but they did promise to have a working and stable release by spring this year. So yeah, if you want to, you can wait for this, and if this is what you like, install this. So the most confusing part for all Linux users is which distro to choose. So again, I recommend Debian, because it's like Ubuntu is one of the most popular distros out there, and it's based on Debian. So most of the things that you'll come across are going to be easier to install on Ubuntu. Not to get anyone mad if you don't like Ubuntu for some reason, and there's reasons to not like Ubuntu, but like for an average user, I think Ubuntu is fine. If you're going to get into Linux, Ubuntu is fine. The reason why I recommend Ubuntu is because Ubuntu was my first distro, and it suited me well. Yes, I could be more technical than some of you, but I can assure you that if you use Ubuntu, if you push that usage, like if you make yourself use Ubuntu for like a week, you are going to be ready to use Linux, basically. You're going to be ready, you're going to want to know more. Once you go into that rabbit hole of like Linux, you're not going to regret it. And if you do, that's fine. You can leave it for now and like go back to your Windows install it in a VM and experiment with it there. So right, today we're going to be installing Ubuntu in a VM. Well, you can also follow along if you're using a desktop, because it's pretty much going to be the same process aside from like installing NVIDIA drivers if you've got an NVIDIA card. But yeah, if you want to install it in a VM to test before switching, that's be my guest. So yeah, you go to Ubuntu's main page here on ubuntu.com/desktop, and basically it appears right here, Ubuntu for desktops, #1 open source operating system, powers millions of PCs and laptops around the world. So as I said, it's the go-to option for most people, and because it's like so widespread, there exists a lot of documentation online, and basically what you have to do is really simple. I mean, it's not some archaic website. You're going to basically have to press this download button. It's going to bring this page up, and it's basically going to tell you download Ubuntu desktop and Ubuntu 24.04.1 LTS. So just for context's sake, 24 means 2024, so this OS was released in 2024. This is 04, so it means the month, so April, and 1 is like the subversion. LTS, if you're new, I recommend going for LTS. You can just go and download the installer, which is going to come in the form of an ISO. Just a sec. And while that's downloading, we could go and talk about the features of Ubuntu. It's got support for Blender, Spotify, VS Code, whatever that is from the IntelliJ suite. Basically, Firefox. It has support for Chrome, so don't get scared. Telegram, which is a messaging service, if you didn't know. Discord. I don't know what that is. It looks like a PowerShell logo. I don't know. And it has support for Slack and Steam, most importantly Steam, because if you're going to want to change to Linux, you're going to want to play your games. I know that most people who want to switch are concerned about gaming. Now Ubuntu, it provides good support for great gaming. Alright, now that we have a file downloaded right here, and it's gone, we have to move to the next step, which is to install the OS. So in this step, I'm going to be showing you how to install Ubuntu into a virtual machine. So if you're installing on real hardware, you're going to want to skip this step. For virtualization, I generally recommend Oracle VirtualBox, because it is one of the more easier solutions to virtualization. And yeah, you just Google or Bing a VirtualBox, and it's going to bring up the software here. So you go in, it's this new page, by the way, they changed it, and you go to download. Here you're going to be seeing this prompt, and it's basically telling you where it wants to which platform it wants to install to. I'm assuming that your PC is either macOS or Windows. So if you're Windows based, you want to go for Windows hosts. If you're macOS based, you want to go to download either of these. Which Intel hosts, you gotta go to, you're gonna install these if you have an Intel Mac, so that's generally the Macs that are released before 2020, and like for the initial part of 2020. And if you have Apple Silicon, which is the new M1, M2, M3, M4 Macs, your Mac is generally newer than 2020, or like also in 2020. So yeah, if you want that, you can go for that as well, if you need that. And the other options are not really required because it's Linux. I assume that the viewer of this video is new to Linux, so yeah. Solaris, I actually don't know what Solaris is. I think it's an Oracle thing, but like I could be mistaken. Alright, so when you install that, you're gonna have a window like this. It's not gonna be exactly like this because I already have some VMs ready, but it's going to be like around the same. It's basically gonna have this window, right? So what you're going to need to do here is you're going to have to press new, because you want to create a new VM. Okay, so you're going to give it its name, so Ubuntu, and preferably you would want to include the version number, so 2404. If you have something else, like for example Pop! OS or Manjaro or whatever you wanted to install, you can go and add that string up here. And for this, like, you've got the folder it wants to install in. If you don't want to be this is not the file structure on Windows, so it's going to be c .. documents or something. Yeah, it's going to be in there. I generally don't want mine to be there, so I'm going to change it. Right, now that's changed. We're going to have to locate the ISO image. So it's generally in your downloads. And as you can see now, I've got the ISO mounted, and we've got type Linux because it auto-detected that Ubuntu is Linux. We do not want unattended because we don't want it to set up Linux for us. We're going to set up Linux ourselves. And we can go to this hardware part, which is really important. If you're installing it in a VM, you need to make sure it runs well. So generally, you want it to be at least 2 gigs of memory for a VM. If you do not have that much, yeah, you can use 1 gigs, but it's gonna be insanely slow. If you don't have like more than 2 gigs of RAM on your PC, or you can't allocate more than 2 gigs on your system, I generally recommend to install Ubuntu and try it alongside Windows, so you can dual boot it. I'll do another video on that later if you want to, but today we're just gonna be topping up this like to 4 gigs, or maybe even 8 gigs, which is 8,192 megabytes. And the processors, it really depends on how much cores you have. I have 36. I can go up to like 16 and even more, and it's not going to tamper with my system. But today, yeah, I'll just give it 8 because Ubuntu, frankly, it runs on slow operating systems. You really don't need to have like super high-end hardware to run it. So yeah. And here we go. We've got this. It's going to auto detect the place we want it to install our hard drive. So we already specified that in the name and operating system folder. So this is going to create a virtual hard drive. It's basically a file with the extension of VDI. And yeah, if you want to, you can go up to 40 gigs here, or whatever other storage requirement you want. But yeah, and it's gonna prompt you to pick one of these, which VDI is default. Let's go for that. Why not? And finish. And now that you've pressed finish, you've got this over here. So as you can see, I'm gonna bring it up. Actually, I don't care. It's gonna be up here basically. Yeah, so you're in the menu. It says Ubuntu 22.04 LTS, which is the version we're going to install. you can also give it more video memory if you've got video memory to support that. I've got a 1080 Ti, it's got 11 gigs, so it's not a problem. So yeah, just press OK. The rest you can just leave as default, and yeah, we're basically ready to start the system. So start is basically the power button of the system. You just press it and voila. Now that I've set up the VM and downloaded the VM client, which is Oracle VirtualBox, I welcome the rest of the people who were waiting to install it on bare hardware, so bare metal, back to the video. And now, yeah, you're gonna have to put that ISO file on some a flash drive, a disk, DVD, if you've got a high capacity DVD, because I think Ubuntu with its 5 gigabytes is not going to be supported on a standard DVD. So I do recommend a flash drive. And if you do have like Ventoy or something, you're just going to drag it and drop it. So generally, to flash USB drives, I recommend Rufus or Balena Etcher. I will have these links down below, and also I will have tutorials of how to do how to flash your drives linked down below, because I'm not going to be installing it on my system. I'm going to do it in a VM, but it's pretty much the same process as I said before. Okay, so when you boot the system, you're going to have to choose which BIOS option you have. So if you don't have a active install of anything, it's just going to be booting into your USB at once. But if you do have like an OS, which I doubt you don't, you're going to be booted back into your OS. To stop this from happening, you want to press delete a lot of times. I'll link a video how to get into the BIOS and install a new operating system down below. Then when you do that, when you sort up the boot options so that Ubuntu comes first, you're going to be greeted by this screen. And this is GRUB. This is the boot menu of Ubuntu basically, or any Linux distro that's configured with GRUB. Here you just have to press try or install Ubuntu, which is going to be booting you into the live environment. So yeah, the live environment is basically meant for you to experiment with Ubuntu before installing it, and I highly do recommend experimenting with it before you install it, because sometimes some people can have different tastes, and that's a given. Like, that's basically something that really happens every day. And as you can see here, I am in the environment. Again, feel free to like stop the video and like go and explore Ubuntu. I'm gonna, because it's gonna. There, we've got the Ubuntu startup sound, and yeah, we're gonna be picking English as the language. Accessibility in Ubuntu, I don't need any of these, but if you do need them, you can do whatever you want. I'll go for English UK, and you can test the keyboard here. Wired connection, if you have Wi-Fi, you would want to connect to Wi-Fi here. There's an update for the installer. I do recommend updating because it's gonna save you from a lot of other issues. Like, you're not gonna need to update basically. That's just what I'm saying. And we'll leave it to update, and we'll see what happens. I'm actually this is the first time I'm actually doing this. So yeah, close installer, relaunch. So as you can see, it put me back into the live environment. So this is Ubuntu. This, guys, is Ubuntu. So it's got this apps drawer thing going on with like the macOS style, with the whole folders thing. If you've used macOS, this is really, really standard for you. I mean, this is basically this is trying to mimic macOS. So you've got your file explorer, you've got your Firefox, your Thunderbird mail client, you've got your Rhythmbox, you've got your LibreOffice, which is a free office suite, you've got your App Center, which will talk about when I install Ubuntu. So yeah, we'll just leave that for now. And yeah, install release. We're going back into, if you're going to do this, you just press this button and it's going to bring the installer back up and it's going to play the sound. And we're going to go through the same process and use wired connection. Yep. Interactive installation. For users who want to be guided step by step through the installation, which I do recommend every newbie to do. And by the way, do not be scared of being a noob. Yeah, the Linux community can be harsh sometimes, and they can be discriminatory, like elitist about their operating system, but just tell them to fuck off and watch this video, and that's it. Alright, so here we've got which apps you want to install. If you want all the GNOME apps, I generally do not recommend that because it's going to add a lot more bloat to the operating system. So, actually, you know what? Let's go for the extended selection because we want to see what it actually installs. So if you don't want that, if you don't want these like Office tools, utilities, and web browser, you can choose not to install them. Alright, so I do recommend doing this because if you're on a laptop, or generally if you're gonna use Wi-Fi like anytime, I recommend pressing this button. And this is also really important because like sometimes your videos are not going to play. You're going to want to enable this as well, which is download and support additional media formats. How do you want to install Ubuntu? Erase disk and install Ubuntu. Like if you're installing and dual booting, you're gonna have another option here. But as my VM doesn't have another like OS, I do not have that option here. So yeah, I'll go for erase disk. Again, if you erase a disk, that's gonna be irreversible. So you're gonna want to make sure you have your data backed up. Right, you're gonna put your name here. I will just go for Alex. Yeah, alex.virtualbox is going to show your computer's name here. If you want to change it, I'll just go for YouTube. Sorry, video. If I can actually type, and it's going to want a password, which I recommend to add and Linux doesn't actually let you not have a password. So yeah, just add it. I mean, it's just a password. Just add 123 if you're gonna forget, which I'll do here. Really secure, but yeah. Require like password and login. I remember this causing issues. Like you're gonna need to like permit some applications to run. So basically, it's not gonna let you run a lot of things when you log in, so I do not recommend doing that. Use Active Directory, no. So yeah, if this is a time zone thing, you're gonna want to choose your time zone. So I mean, just go for wherever you are. If you're in Toronto, go for Toronto. If you're in Saskatchewan, go for Saskatchewan. I mean, whatever, basically. Go for the place you live in. And this is basically a summary of what you did. And as you can see, you've got the install button here, so you're just going to be pressing it, and it's copying files. Alright, that definitely didn't take 30 minutes. We've got to this screen, so it says installation complete and continue testing, which we're not going to do, and restart now. So we press restart now, it's going to restart. You can already see the whole Ubuntu decorations of the screen are really nice. it says please remove the installation medium, then press enter. Okay, enter. It just removes it automatically. Very nice. I hope it did at least. See what happens. Is it booting the installation medium or is it booting Ubuntu? I think it's Ubuntu. Alright, so now it's booting Ubuntu, the Ubuntu install we just installed. Alright, so now we're at the login screen of Ubuntu 24.04 LTS, and as you can see, it prompts me to log into my user, which I'll do, just like so. And as we can remember, my super secret password was 123. Of course, my password's going to be different from yours. Mine is 123, and we're going to get into the user, so the actual desktop experience. Okay, so here we are. We've got the desktop with the home folder, which we'll come to in a moment. Really delayed. I mean, sorry, the VM is on the hard drive, so yeah. Welcome to Ubuntu 24.04.1 LTS, and this is like the out-of-box experience like you have on Windows. Okay, it tells me to install Ubuntu Pro. Well, we're not gonna need that, so yeah, we're gonna just skip it. There we go. Next, help improve Ubuntu. This is if you want to send telemetry data. I usually say no, but you can also choose yes. I mean, that's for your liking. Get started with more applications. So we're gonna open the App Center, but we're going to leave it for a later time, so we can explore it later. Yeah, so your additional drivers will basically be here. So as you can see, it's VMware SVGA2 adapter. Your drivers are going to be here. If you're an NVIDIA user, you're going to have to install your NVIDIA graphics card drivers. I would recommend installing the most recent ones. If not, I will link a video or a guide how to get the bleeding edge drivers, which you have to add a repository, and it does require some command line prompts. The command line is not a scary tool. It's actually a very powerful tool, and if you know how to use it, it's really handy. But again, nowadays, Linux can be used without the command line. So yeah, let's get right into how you would use Linux without a command line. Right, so this is the App Store here. The App Store is the store that combines Ubuntu native, like apt or repository or certified, or you could say official packages, also it contains packages maintained in the FlatHub repository, and also the Snapcraft repositories, mainly Snapcraft, I think, because Ubuntu is they do want a snappy world, let's just say that. And yeah, so let's say, for example, we want to install Discord. We just go ahead and write in Discord, as you can see here. Let's just search Discord Canary, which is the developer version, and as you can see, we've got the check marks, or what's it called, like the basically check marks of this world of verified uploaders. So Snapcrafters has uploaded Discord here, so this is the official version of Discord. For example, DevSting has uploaded this Discord Canary app, and you can see it says inefficient votes, but if you do believe that this is safe for you, you can go ahead and download it. Of course, you would want to check what's going on in there. But you always have to remember that these are sandbox. So So how a sandbox app works is that it basically does not have access to the rest of the system unless you specifically allow it. So if you're going to want to use Discord, you're going to have to make sure, like, it's going to prompt you, and I think I really don't use snaps, but still, it's going to prompt you to like let it access some folders and stuff like that. So yeah. And yes, with this, of course, with this security, everything, like, you have to compromise on something with the security. So if it's not going to be accessing everything, it's not going to be accessing everything. So there's lots of issues with Snap, and there's a lot of criticism for it, and I think much of that criticism is valid. But for now, as a new user, Snap is like all you need. When you get technical, like when you get powerful with your knowledge of Linux, I think that is when you can just ditch Snap and go and use other packages. With that said, you also have Debian packages here. So yeah, let's go search for that. Well, Discord doesn't have a Debian package. It does, but you have to go and install it the way that you do on Windows. So download a deb file, which a deb file is a file which is basically an installer. It's not an exe because it can't run. It's an installer. It's like an MSI file. Yeah, let's go for Steam. And as you can see here, this is we'll just go Steam again because that was not. Yeah, see, Steam here is like the installer, which is not a snap. As you can see, it's like different. It is a Debian package as shown over here, and it's an installer. If you go for snaps, it's going to be canonical Steam right here as well. And again, you can also go and download it from Steam because that's also a way they support installing. Let's see if we can download KDE Live. Let's say, for example, we want to edit videos live. Right, here is KDE Live. Yeah, and there's a Debian package for it as well. So with the .deb, and I believe you can also download it from the internet, just like you do on Windows. I'm very curious to see DaVinci Resolve. No. Well, DaVinci Resolve also exists, which you can also download from their website, so yeah. Okay, let's just like go ahead and install something for a good example. Let's just say I want Chromium. Okay, so here's Chromium, the browser, the open source one. I mean, you can also install Chrome, again, with a deb, and again, from the website. So latest stable, you can choose a version here. I'm going to go for the latest, of course, and yeah, install. It's just like as easy as that. 1, 2, 3, and there we go, installing. And sometimes these have like some weird glitches. It usually happens if you do not update the installer and like update all packages, install updates while starting Ubuntu, or basically it happens when you don't do the installation correctly. I mean, it's not incorrect, but it saves you a lot of time just to do the installation the way I did it. So you don't have any, you won't have any problems like dealing with this stuff in the long term. I mean, everything like in Linux is really it's fragmented in a good way. Everything can be reinstalled. Like if it breaks, like if it goes to a black screen, if the desktop environment like goes, I like to be on the edge. So I did some stuff that was frankly not something you should do, and my whole like desktop got deleted. I just went there and again with the help of this insanely promising like tool, a command line. I got my system running stable, and it's running since. So there's actually no problem in breaking your system as long as you can fix it later on. Okay, so that said, I mean, I don't know, again, this is a hard drive, that's why it's installing this slow. Alright, as you can see, it's Chromium, like the open source one, and you can like sign in, stuff like that. It's Google Chrome, I mean, just what you expect from Chromium, basically. Yeah, speaking of home, which I said we're going to be speaking about, home is basically your user directory in Windows. It has your desktop folder, your documents, downloads, music, pictures, public, and Snap, of course, templates, and videos. It's basically your user directory, just like I said. Alright, now about the desktop environments. Remember when I said you can install any desktop environment you would like? So, this is a terminal. A lot of things that Linux does, it does best with the help of the terminal, because the terminal is really good for parallelization of tasks. It can do tasks more verbosely, so it will spit out text. Alright, so for those who do want a macOS experience, we can change the way how Ubuntu looks. So we're going to move the dock down here. This is appearance, doesn't really do anything. Alright, so here, we go to the dock and position on screen, bottom. And then we see it's already on the bottom, it's like got a Windows style to it. We'll just put this here because on macOS it's up here. Extend edges to screen, and here we go. We've got a macOS kind of like we've got a macOS look going on. If you want to make it like theme it more like macOS, there's a lot of tutorials up there, but that's not the subject of this video. It's just like a video to like show you how customizable Linux is. Even GNOME, which is not that customizable compared to like other DEs, like for example KDE, it's still got a lot of customization, and it's still got a lot of like support for plugins, other things. Like for example, if you don't want your icons this big, you can make them smaller. Like there's absolutely the horizons of there's no horizons to what you can and can't do. Basically, you can do whatever you want. That said, let's go and install another desktop environment. We're going to be talking about commands now. So the simplest command is apt, which you want to know because it's like a store, but it's a store that interacts with this command line. So you can download apps just by using the command line and this command. It's called apt. Apt is basically a program that downloads and installs packages from the repos that Ubuntu provides. Well, because this is a system-wide change, so your application is going to be installed on a system, because there's permissions on Linux and nothing can access the kernel, and this is going to be accessing some stuff that are not really meant to be accessed by the user, and you're in user mode, so you're in your user, you're not super privileged, so one can say administrator. And run as administrator here in Linux is sudo. Now I would want to tell you that you shouldn't run sudo anything if you do not trust whatever comes after it. Now apt is given to us by Ubuntu, right? We trust it, so that's why we can use apt with sudo. Do not run anything with sudo if you do not trust it. Right, so apt is a program, and as you know, programs in like this interface can take parameters. So what do we want to do? We want to install a desktop environment. So evidently we just type install. Sorry if I can actually type install, just like so. And by the way, if you do not want to type the whole word, you can press tab and it will auto-complete for you. The terminal is not your enemy, it is your friend. You have seen those memes. Those memes were lying to you. Those memes that the text is going down like you don't understand what's going on. Trust me, I do not understand those memes either, okay? I have been using Linux for over 2 years and I still don't understand those memes. They're just funny. That's just basically what they are. And running browsers here, like running Chrome, okay? It's that easy. Done, we're done. That's Chrome right there, it's running. No need to start an attack helicopter to just run Chrome. That's just pure bullshit. So sudo apt install Plasma desktop. Now if you don't know how to find these desktops, don't worry. Basically search it online and it just tells you what to do to get Plasma or some other program. Alright, so in this case we're installing Plasma, so we're going to just press enter. We're going to enter our password because remember, sudo is privileged mode, it's administrator mode. So evidently if you want administrator mode, you're going to have to provide an administrator password. Or your password if you're an administrator, just like on Windows. And just like that, it's going to bring up this whole cryptic thing of like a lot of things it's going to want to install. Basically, it wants to install all of these. And all of those depend on these. You don't want to look at these. It's just installing the things. This is trusted by Ubuntu. So evidently, if you've downloaded Ubuntu, you trust it. Not always the case, but still, no system is unhackable. Sometimes there will be issues here and there, but usually in LTS releases, just like I've recommended before, these issues are not going to be present. So you can just say yes, which as you can see here, do you want to continue? Yes. And it tells you after this operation, 992 megabytes of additional disk space will be used. 6 programs will be upgraded, 487 newly installed, and basically not upgraded need to get 302 megabytes of archives. You just say yes, and it goes to do its work just like so. And once it's done, we'll come back. Alright guys, now that we've finished downloading Plasma Desktop, we can go and actually start it up. So what we have to do is we have to log out of the user, which we can do through here. So you can see the power button, it's basically under that. You press it again and log out. And as you can see here, this is my username as well, again, just like last time, you just press it in. And as you can see, I don't think this was visible last time, but you can see this like settings menu here. You're going to press that, and as you can see, it shows right here, Plasma X11. You're going to click on that, and you're going to put in your password, and you're going to press enter. And now, as you can see, it's going to be loading Plasma up. Alright, as we can see here, it's pretty much the same experience I have on my desktop, except mine is in dark mode, of course, and this is light mode. And as you can see, if you want a Windows-like experience, Plasma is for you. It's got a start menu, it's got like an interface which you can customize, you can go, and this is Chromium as we installed it just like 2 minutes ago. The store, so you've got the disk cover and you've got the settings menu, which, yeah, it's got a lot of settings honestly. You can enter edit mode. Again, I'm running off a hard drive, that's why it's really slow. That's not going to be the same for you. I mean, this is even this is in a VM, and it's also with a hard drive, so it's going to be extremely slower for me. So if you want to like switch to dark mode, you can just like open up quick settings. You can just do this from here, like for example, actually, I don't know what I clicked to open this. Yeah, we'll just go to settings, and I think it just defaults here. Anyway, so there's Breeze and there's Breeze Dark, so it's really self-explanatory which is which. You can just basically turn it on, and just like Windows, it's got an apply button, and there we go. We've got that like set up, and a whole like interface, even Chromium. I think it changed the logo, no idea really, but yeah. It's also changing the wallpaper, so you don't get flashbanged every single time when you go back to your home screen. Yeah, about the system, it's got everything. So see, you've got Ubuntu, and for me, we go to settings. I'll have more settings because my system is more customized. And also here we go, that's Arch Linux right there, and you can see the Plasma version, which is 6, and here it's 5 because Ubuntu keeps it at a lower version so that you can have more stability. You can see the system specs. Of course, this is a virtual machine, so that's why I have 8 cores on a CPU that really has 36 threads. Yeah. Anyway, so yeah, from here you can just basically install your Steam, your games, and wherever you want basically, using the ways I showed you. So your next question might be, which games work on Linux and which don't? That's simple. Basically all games on Steam that don't require anti-cheat work on Linux. Even some anti-cheat games do work on Linux. And basically if you have single player titles, most of them are going to work. Like 99% of all single player titles will work on Linux. So as you can see my library, most of these games do work on Linux in fact. There is a really good website to track and see which games you own work on Linux. It's called ProtonDB. For example, if I want to play The Witcher 3, I don't know if it works on Linux or not, I can just search up Witcher 3, just like so, and it's going to bring up Witcher 3 and it says Platinum. That means it works really well. And you can see like how people customize it to run better. You can see what the hardware is here. Like if you reach a point in a game or like it doesn't launch or something, you can just go to this website, search up the game, and it usually is like a single command, and it'll make everything run way better than it did out of the box. For example, I want to play Far Cry 1. Far Cry 1. Yeah, here is Far Cry 1, and as you can see, they say you can install the patch from here, and it works really well with Proton tricks and stuff like that. All of this you'll get used to while you go through your Linux experience, and yeah, it's going to be quite easy. And also there's this website called Are We Anti-Cheat Yet? This is a website that shows you every single game that has an anti-cheat and if they're supporting Linux or they're not. So for example, we've got 192 games supported with Linux, 218 running, so supported are the games that are like saying yes, we will work on Linux. 218 are the ones who didn't say anything about Linux, but they do work on Linux. 4 games are planned to be supported on Linux, and 644 are broken, 41 are denied. I mean, yeah, it's pretty good. I mean, mostly the games that will not work, the ones that are denied or like broken, are the like PUBGs and the Fortnites of the world. They usually have like this invasive anti-cheat that sits in your System32 folder, and it doesn't like to have like basically it doesn't like to have less permissions than the most permission than like sudo. So yeah, Wine runs games in your user. Basically it doesn't run them as administrator. Aside from those 2 websites, I would highly recommend going to r/Linux Gaming, where you can find a lot of documentation and help on your problems that occur. Like, they're gonna occur because it's a new operating system, it's a new place for you, and you might not be comfortable with all of the like needs and greedies of like Linux. So yeah, you're gonna need to go here from time to time, and if you want to, you can ask questions, and these people will be kind enough to answer. And I always find this community helpful. Like me, you might look at me as a Linux user, like someone who like does the whole command line stuff. But no, I regular this place. I always ask people questions, and they tend to help me, and basically that's how this community works. It's about helping each other to make a better future. And yeah, that's basically it. So that basically wraps up the video here today. And if it was helpful to you, and if you liked the video, please like it and comment down below if I had any issues, because I know I will have issues, because this is the first time I'm recording in a very long time. And yeah, I wish to see you in the next video. So bye. Oh yeah, by the way, all of these like gameplay videos you've seen on top of my talking were actually me playing it on Linux. So yeah, if that's not convincing, I don't know what is. Bye.